Hey, kindergarten. I hope everyone's having a really good weekend. For art this week, one of our assignments was to make wheat bread. So I know everyone is really busy right now this time of year, so I thought I'd put together a little video of me making wheat bread, just in case you don't have time to do it with your families. So Mrs. Jameson took pictures of the recipe on my phone here. This is the lesson we're talking about. Okay, it's art week 1. And it says the first thing we have to do is add yeast to warm water and stir it until it's dissolved. Dissolved means kind of disappeared. So I have a 1/2 cup of warm water here. I'm going to pour it into my bowl. And then I did go to the store today and I got these little packets of yeast. So this is pizza yeast. I hope it's the same. My home ec teacher would probably not be very proud of me right now for not knowing the difference. All right, so here is what yeast looks like. Okay, it's kind of all these teeny tiny balls. And so I'm just going to pour it without spilling. Okay, into my warm water. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see in there or not. Not really. There we go. So I'm just going to keep stirring this until it's all mixed in. And what the yeast does is that's what the part that makes the bread fluffy. All right. I'll let that sit for a second. The next thing we have to do is stir in molasses, oil, salt, and milk. So if I look up here at the top, and you can see this on your accelerated ed a little bit better, it tells me how much of each one of these things I need. So I need 3 tablespoons of molasses. So here I have 2 different measuring spoons. The little one is a teaspoon, the big one is a tablespoon. This is my molasses. Okay, it smells like baked beans. And it's like a thick black liquid. I'll pour it in so you can see. It's kind of like chocolate syrup. So there's 1. 2, and 3. And the molasses is sweet. It has sugar in it. And the yeast needs sugar in order to make itself puffy, so your bread gets fluffy. All right, so there's 3 tablespoons of molasses. And what else do we need? That's Marla. She wants to go out. 3 tablespoons of molasses. 3/4 cup of milk. So this is my 1 cup, and I'm going to fill it up 3/4 of the way. So that's not all the way, but almost. It's like 75%. If you have 4/4, they make $1, they make 1, but 3/4 is 75. So I'm going to add the milk. So we have in our yeast, our warm water. We have our molasses, our milk. We need oil and salt. Oil, we need 2 tablespoons of vegetable. All right, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So here's my tablespoon. We're going to do 1. And 2. There we go. And if you look in here, See how the vegetable oil isn't mixing with the rest of the mixture? All right, and then the last thing we need is our salt. And for our salt, we need 1 teaspoon of salt. So here's a teaspoon, it's our little guy. And let me pour out some salt. Oops, a little extra. All right, there we go. Now we're going to mix all of these things together. Not sure if you can see this or not. Bloop. Kind of smells yucky. Looks kind of weird. But now it's all mixed. All right, hold on. Let's see what our next steps are. All right, our next step is to stir in 3 cups of flour, and then we have to let it sit for 5 minutes. So here's some bread flour. I'm going to scoop out 3 cups worth. There's 1. 2 and 3. All right, and then we're going to mix this all together. Going to mix it, and then I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes. As I'm mixing it, it's starting to get a little bit chunky. And come together. It looks more like a dough. All right, there's what it looks like. I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right, everybody. So our dough starter has rested for 5 minutes. Looks like this. So the next thing we have to do is add 1 more cup of flour because we need 4 altogether. We've already put in 3. Get 1. Last cup here. Sprinkle that in. And we're going to mix it around. Let's see how this works. The dough right now is super sticky. And then after we're done with mixing this in, we're going to get to knead it on the counter. Okay, so all Mrs. Jamison's doing here is kind of taking it and folding it in. I'll get this mixed up and I'll be right back. All right, everybody. So I have our dough kind of mixed together. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to knead it on the counter here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour out so it doesn't stick to the counter. Plop my bowl down. Okay, and this is just kind of like Play-Doh where we're going to kind of fold it and push and fold and push. Fold and push and knead it all together. I'm going to work on this. I'll be back in a minute. All right, so our bread is all kneaded together. All right, it's a big lump of dough. So the next step in this process is putting it in a bowl to rest for 45 minutes. So I'm just going to take a little bit of our spray here. Spray down the bowl so the bread doesn't stick to the sides of it. I'm gonna put it in there. Everyone look how big it is. So it's going to rise for 45 minutes. That means all that yeast inside is going to start eating the sugar and make gas, which makes air bubbles, which is going to make the bread fluffy. So I'll be back in 45 minutes and we'll see what it looks like. One more time. That's what it looks like now. Okay? Hey, kindergarten. So here's our bread after it sat for 45 minutes. See how it got bigger? So the next thing the directions say is to punch it down. So I'm going to just take it and smush it down right here in the bowl. And it's super, super squishy. Look at that. And then it says we need to divide it into whatever we're going to make it into. So I'm going to spray down this bread pan. And I'm going to put half of it in here. Pull it apart. A little bit more. That's about half. And I'm going to smush it out down here in the bottom of this bread pan. Like so. And then the extra dough, I'm going to make into some little balls for in Jet, Timber, and Piper's lunch. I'm going to spray this big pan down so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to make some little balls of dough, little bread balls for in their lunch. All right, Mrs. Jameson's going to do this, and then we have to let it sit so it rises again. And after that, we'll put it in the oven. I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, kindergarten. So I just let the bread rest for quite a while. And I just want to remind you, this is what it looked like. A little hard to see, sorry. This is what it looked like before. That's the bread. And here's the rolls. Now look. Look at how big that got. See all those bubbles? That's from the yeast and sugar mixing together. Look at these. Whoa. So now Mrs. Jameson's going to put them in my oven. They go in at 425 for 10 minutes, and then we're going to back it down to 350 for another 20 minutes. All right, so let me put them in. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'll put this guy up top. Put these down here. All right, I'm going to let them cook, and then I'll show you when it's all done. All right, kindergarten, I just pulled everything out of the oven. Our bread, I think, got a little overdone, but that happens sometimes. But here it is. And then our rolls turned out delicious. Let's try one. Oh, look at that. Pretty good. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you get a chance to try to bake something with your family, even if it's not bread. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.